Well, thank you very much, and thanks for everybody coming to this very exciting event and exciting announcement. What I'd love to do before we start, and I'd love to make a little noise here just so that everyone else can hear some good news coming from the U.S. Center, is give a special shout out to our U.S. Center colleagues. Hopefully some of you have participated in a number of U.S. Center events. We've got a phenomenal group of colleagues here working at the U.S. Center. I just had a chance to meet some of them. I got a chance to hear who their favorite secretaries were that came through. All of them said it was Secretary Granholm who was your favorite from the Department of Energy, which is great. Although some were pretty excited about Secretary Buttigieg coming by later today as well, and maybe some of you will come for that event. But thank you guys. You guys are doing great work. It's unheralded work, but wanted to give you guys some recognition, and thanks for long hours being put in. So thank you guys for one more round of applause for our U.S. Center colleagues. All right, so the task at hand, and this is an exciting event, and there's a lot of launches that happen here, but I think this is one that you really will want to pay attention to and really exciting. And I'll get into that, and our future speakers will get into that as well. And what we're launching is a really unique initiative. It's called the H2 Twin Cities Initiative. Now, there are varying twin cities around the world, like Minneapolis and St. Paul and Minnesota. This is not necessarily about Minneapolis and St. Paul. Maybe they will be part of this initiative, but this is a really, really exciting initiative. I want to start by thanking all those who've been involved in this effort, and in particular the Clean Energy Ministerial Hydrogen Initiative, which is one of the phenomenal initiatives within the Clean Energy Ministerial. We'll hear later from the head of Secretariat for the Clean Energy Ministerial, my good friend Dan Dorner, who's just done terrific work. So thanks to everybody in the Clean Energy Ministerial family and on the Hydrogen Initiative in particular. And the time really is now to join forces, and this is a partnerships initiative on hydrogen in particular. Every meeting that I've been in at the COP, every meeting that I've been in at the G20 this year with key ministers, we've got a colleague here from Japan, from METI, who Japan has just been an outstanding leader in hydrogen for many, many years. Other countries are catching up. Other countries are now focusing on hydrogen in incredibly exciting ways. We're incredibly focused on hydrogen for very, very good reasons. And this initiative brings hydrogen and all the momentum, all the excitement around hydrogen, and brings it with cities. And cities and communities are the real world incubators in terms of what actually happens out there in the real world. We've got incredibly dynamic cities, incredibly dynamic mayors, community leaders, community organizers around our country, and we know around the world as well. And some of the most interesting, innovative things have happened with mayors, with cities, and what we want to do with this initiative in particular is bring the hydrogen momentum, the city leader momentum, and bring those two together. So we're leveraging that enthusiasm, that local leadership, to really be a key part of the equation when it comes to hydrogen. Specifically, the hydrogen, the H2 Twin Cities initiative will be a platform, will be an opportunity to share ideas, to mentor, to learn from each other. It's not going to be a linear process on the hydrogen side of things. It's not a linear process with any technology, but especially hydrogen, an area where you've got a variety of different ways to produce clean hydrogen, a variety of different hubs and mechanisms that we need to have to transport hydrogen and to use hydrogen. This is an especially ripe area where we need to share in real time what's working, what's not working, learn from each other, be efficient, be effective about it going forward. In the process of accelerating the development, accelerating the deployment of affordable and clean hydrogen is going to need to take place with that community leadership. It's an absolutely indispensable part of the equation. The U.S. already currently produces more than 10 million tons of hydrogen. One of the myths about hydrogen is there's not a lot of hydrogen already in the system. There's an awful lot of hydrogen in the system. IEA's done some terrific analysis back when I was part of IEA on that front. But right now, most of that hydrogen is so-called gray hydrogen. Most of it's produced from natural gas without any CCUS associated with it. China actually produces a significant amount of hydrogen from coal. So it's fossil fuel based right now. It has a significant GHG emission profile right now. What's exciting is we're ramping up a number of different colors of hydrogen. Green hydrogen from electrolysis is coming on strong in ways that we need to keep developing and keep building it up significantly further. The exciting part is that we have the hydrogen in the system. We actually have hydrogen being used throughout our economy, whether it's in commercial vehicles, in forklifts, backup power throughout the U.S. and around the world. We also have existing storage for hydrogen around the world, infrastructure that's been built up around the world. In fact, the world's largest geologic storage for hydrogen is actually, and this is gigawatt hours of energy that can be stored via hydrogen, is already in a storage cavern in Texas in the United States. So we have some infrastructure already built up. But we need to clean up the hydrogen that we have, and we need to really use it flexibly for hard to decarbonize sectors in particular. Whether that's long distance freight, whether that's a variety of industrial capacities, hydrogen's versatility, hydrogen's flexibility is incredibly exciting in that kind of way. There's also a huge amount of jobs associated with hydrogen already, and a huge amount of potential new jobs throughout the country, throughout the world when it comes to clean hydrogen. One of the things we're particularly focused on in the US, and I think other countries around the world are focused and will be focused even more, is how do we have these clean energy jobs, not just for some communities, not just for the communities that have been more successful in the past. How do we bring environmental justice? How do we bring equity? How do we look at those communities that were coal communities and build hydrogen economies in those communities, so that as we build out our clean energy, we do it equitably, we do it fairly, we do it for everybody in our respective countries. And again, cities, communities will absolutely have to lead that, and we'll have to have the consultation, the partnership, the discussions from the U.S. Government side of things. One of the greatest challenges of hydrogen right now is producing, delivering, storing, utilizing hydrogen, all parts of the hydrogen situation, the systems of systems, as they call it. And one of the big things we're focused on hydrogen, one of the key parts of the hydrogen equation, and I know Japan's focused on this, others are focused on this as well, is driving down the cost of hydrogen, especially for electrolysis, especially for green hydrogen, that is hydrogen produced from renewables. It's no surprise then that our very first Earthshot, this is our big deal effort to reduce costs for key linchpin technologies that we need to get to net zero economies. Our very first Earthshot that we launched was on hydrogen, with a very, very ambitious goal to get to $1 per kilogram of hydrogen within this decade. For those who follow electrolysis, we're not at $1 per kilogram, we're not at $2 per kilogram. We've got a good way to go on that, but we're going to put our national labs, we're going to put ARPA-E, we're going to put our Office of Science, our Kelly Speaks Bachman is here from our Energy Efficiency and Renewable Office. We're going to put that office directly behind this effort, all synced up, all coordinated for this $1 per kilogram within this decade period of time. We're incredibly excited about this hydrogen Earthshot. We're of course focused on hydrogen, not just in the R&D space. We're focused on integrating the different uses of it. The H2 at Scale initiative that Kelly's team is coordinating, incredibly important effort to make sure that we look at the systems of systems. We're reducing the cost, but we're figuring out how to do this at significant scale along those lines. Also particularly excited for what's happening in our U.S. Congress right now. We've got a historic piece of legislation that's already passed and one that is going to be passed soon. $800 billion that we're going to be able to spend on clean energy and climate efforts. There is a big component in the part of the bill already passed in the bipartisan infrastructure deal on hydrogen. $8 billion actually on hydrogen demonstration programs. That's going to be administered by our Department of Energy. Incredibly important tool. We've got the R&D, we've got the H2 at Scale looking at the systems of systems and the road mapping, and then we've got these huge demonstration programs as well. All of this is going to require, of course, collaboration with our cities and collaboration internationally. And again, a huge shout out to the Clean Energy Ministerial Hydrogen Initiative. We've got a variety of hydrogen efforts out there. We've got IPHE, that a number of countries, the US is part of it. Japan has been hosting a clean energy hydrogen ministerial. I think this is 4 years running, if I'm not mistaken. We've got a Mission Innovation Hydrogen Initiative. We've got the Hydrogen Council. And several of us had some exciting discussions around closed doors earlier this week, trying to figure out how we rationalize, how we make sure that all of these hydrogen initiatives are part of something to the scale and to the gravitas to the moment, to be true to the moment of what we're in on the hydrogen side of things. We've got some work to do on that international architecture for hydrogen, but I took away from that meeting we had, and several of the participants are at this event, that we've got some momentum and we'll really carry that forward. I want to thank all the countries in particular who've been part of this Twin Cities working group to really get this launch where it is now, to be able to go out bringing communities together. The European Commission, the Netherlands, Canada, Japan, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and the IEA as the secretariat for this effort. Tremendous leadership from a variety of key countries. So I couldn't be more pleased to officially launch this hydrogen partnership, this H2 Cities, Twin Cities effort on behalf of all of these countries. The website is going live. Maybe it's already live, and you can certainly visit it to see where we get where you can apply, where cities can apply, and we can have the application process. Cities from different countries can apply. Winners will be showcased, and we'll have an opportunity to have that kind of platform, that kind of forum, that kind of shared leadership on this side of things. So this is the moment. This is the moment for hydrogen. This is bringing cities and hydrogen together. Huge opportunity. We look forward, certainly from the U.S. and the Department of Energy, working with all parts of this hydrogen ecosystem, in particular cities and communities, and really looking forward to taking advantage of this moment. Now, I think we've got a couple videos here, and then we'll have a phenomenal panel of live speakers, including our Canadian colleagues, our SEM colleagues, just terrific leaders in hydrogen and more broadly. So it's terrific to have such leaders with us today. Please, over to the video.
Hydrogen. It's part of the answer to save the future, a piece of this massive puzzle to tackle climate change. You know it, they know it, we know it. Imagine two cities across the world working hand in hand to grow, learn, streamline, innovate, together accelerating hydrogen deployments for their communities and citizens. H2 Twin Cities will create partnerships that do just that. We're looking for frontrunners, trailblazers, and innovators from all backgrounds to fast-track the global H2 movement. Across continents, we're connecting cities at the forefront of hydrogen development with communities that want to be changemakers. Together, you'll share ideas, mentor, and learn from each other, build a community of best practices, and revolutionize our commitment to environmental justice and clean energy jobs. Twin Cities with one common goal. We will decarbonize industry, transport, and power generation, achieve emissions and pollution reduction, and create jobs. Through scaling up hydrogen technologies, nurturing market adoption, providing outreach and training, and bringing together perspectives from all sides. You, your community, your city can create impact. It starts with you. Join the effort and find your H2 Twin City. Be part of building a better, cleaner, more equitable world. Join us, share, and learn more.
Hi everyone. I hoped I could return this week to COP26 and join you in person, but was unable to. So thank you for letting me join this event virtually. What a powerful message of inspiration from the video on H2 Twin Cities that was just shown. I'm really glad to be joining this event to fast track this movement and help us reach the bold goals President Biden has laid out for the United States. That starts with our enhanced nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement to reduce emissions 50 to 52% by 2030 on the path to net zero emissions by 2050. Underpinning that target is the goal of 100% carbon emissions-free power sector by 2035, and we're going to see clean hydrogen play an important role in getting us there. What I want to emphasize to all of you today is one of the core themes of this initiative, as you just saw, that we are in this together. President Biden's approach to tackling the climate crisis is a whole of government, whole of economy, whole of society effort. The Department of Energy, of course, plays an important critical role, as we are highlighting here today, through innovation to accelerate hydrogen deployment. But it's not just Secretary Granholm and the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate who have participated at this COP. It's also Secretary Yellen, the first time a US Secretary of Treasury has been at a COP, and the heads of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Interior, Department of Transportation, and many, many more. The presence of all these cabinet heads and principals focused on climate change at this international conference underscores why President Biden didn't issue an executive order on tackling the climate crisis just at home. He knows that we truly need a holistic approach, that all of our efforts to tackle the climate crisis need to be both at home and abroad. We know the United States is only 15% of global emissions, and we need to work with partners around the world to reach the 1.5 degree target together. We know that we don't exist in a vacuum, that innovation and partnerships that crisscross the world strengthen our economies and communities, and so much more. We know there's a long history of international cooperation on hydrogen, and we are committed to continuing that cooperation to ensure that hydrogen can deliver this decade and do its part in helping us meet our climate goals. And that's why I'm so glad that the United States has joined the Clean Energy Ministerial's Hydrogen Initiative and continues to elevate clean hydrogen by recently joining Mission Innovation's Hydrogen Mission and the Shipping Mission, as well as co-leading longstanding partnerships like the International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in the Economy. I know Ambassador Fuller will speak next, and I want to thank Canada for initiating the Hydrogen Initiative under the SAM, and we are honored to be co-leads alongside you and other countries. I'd like to thank you on behalf of President Biden. One area I'm excited about in this H2 Twin Cities initiative is that it's not just for sibling cities who are already at the forefront. There's also an opportunity for mentor and mentee cities to pair communities at different levels of hydrogen implementation. This will help lessons learned and best practices be shared with cities that are committed to deploying hydrogen technologies, but also need additional support to do so. This ensures that we do not leave anyone behind as we strive forward towards our goals. These transformational changes are an enormous opportunity to create jobs, build the industries of the future, and make sure that everyone shares in the benefits of an equitable and sustainable green recovery. President Biden has made this clear that his administration will chart a new and better course, one that puts environmental and economic justice at the center of all that we do. I'm really looking forward to the discussion by the panelists on how they will build an equitable future through deploying clean hydrogen. At home, we're doing just that through President Biden's Justice 40 initiative, a significant promise to deliver at least 40% of the overall benefits from federal investments in climate and clean energy to disadvantaged communities. And we're also doing this through working to ensure that the global transition to a net zero future includes good paying jobs for our energy communities, both at home and in those countries around the world. It couldn't be more true that we need to use all the tools in our toolbox to tackle the challenge ahead of us, and to make sure those tools are sharpened and ready for action as we can make them. Clean hydrogen is a versatile tool, and we look forward to seeing how cities deploy it to reduce emissions and create great jobs. Thanks to the H2 Twin Cities, we will no longer have to imagine this future, but we will see it become a reality. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Hello, pleasure to be here, and my thanks to Deputy Secretary Turk for his great lead off. And I'm very excited to be part of the launch of the Twin Cities, the Hydrogen Twin Cities initiative. Hydrogen's key role in the global energy transition and the path to net zero has been highlighted through several events here at COP. I think the sheer magnitude of interest on hydrogen speaks to how essential growing clean hydrogen production and use is to all of us attaining our climate objectives, transforming our global economy and powering a clean energy future. And Canada certainly understands this potential and how important hydrogen is going to be to helping us reach our own climate goals, including in areas where electrification is not an option, such as steel and some manufacturing or mining. And of particular interest to today's discussion, public transit and community heating. So realizing the need for strategic partnerships and global collaboration, in 2019, when Canada hosted the Clean Energy Ministerial in Vancouver, we helped launch a new hydrogen initiative. And it was fitting that this occurred in Vancouver, which is recognized, I think it's fair to say, as the cradle of hydrogen fuel cells. Driven by multinational leadership of Canada, the US, the European Commission, Japan, and the Netherlands, this hydrogen initiative under CEM is dedicated to realizing the full promise of what is called the most... Pause.
Dear COP delegates,
So yes, this CEM hydrogen initiative is dedicating to realizing the full promise of what we like to call the most abundant chemical substance in the universe. So then last year in Canada, we released our hydrogen strategy for Canada, and this sets out an ambitious agenda to make Canada a top 3 producer of clean hydrogen by leveraging our abundant feedstock and pace-setting companies. The strategy for Canada frames actions to grow domestic production and use across our economy, driving down our emissions and providing economic opportunities to all regions of our vast country. Canada's hydrogen strategy also positions us to become a supplier of choice for clean hydrogen and for fuel cell technologies to the world. And all the while creating good green jobs, encouraging Indigenous partnerships, attracting foreign investment, and developing new technologies and services that lay the foundation for a net zero future. Quite simply, Canada is ready to be at the forefront of the global hydrogen economy. But we know we can't do it alone, and that's why we're already working so closely with the United States, Germany, the UK, the European Union, and Japan. And we're also forging new partnerships with Korea, with Portugal, who also have ambitious strategies of their own. And just last week, Prime Minister Trudeau signed an MOU to strengthen collaboration with the Netherlands, which is an early adopter of hydrogen and a key gateway to Europe. As energy transformation becomes the cornerstone of global actions to build back better, the interest in hydrogen is continuing to accelerate. For example, Canada and other countries see tremendous potential to use hydrogen to drive down emissions in port operations. These are essential gateways to trade in clean hydrogen. That's why just this past June, Canada was proud to join with other CEM nations to launch a new global ports coalition, also under the CEM Hydrogen Initiative. Canada is also working through CEM and the International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in the Economy to develop a global framework for carbon intensity. And that's a crucial step in enabling trade in this essential commodity of hydrogen. And now, today, we're all taking the next step to deliver early actions that are identified in the CEM Hydrogen Initiative Work Plan by launching the Twin Cities Hydrogen Initiative. We're excited to join the US in leading the Twin Cities Initiative, and this offers cities a unique opportunity to bring key players across the hydrogen value chain, from producers, end users, and the general population, to deploy early opportunities like public transit and hydrogen blending. We know that there is interest at all levels of government, and we also know that we're stronger by working together. So let's seize this unprecedented moment, harness our collective resources, build on our unique expertise, and leverage this combined will to turn hydrogen's tremendous potential into concrete climate action in cities, in ports, in countries around the world. Thank you very much.
Dear colleagues, it is a pleasure to join you today and participate in this launch of Hydrogen Twin Cities initiative. Hydrogen is enjoying an incredible momentum. Everybody loves hydrogen. And this COP is another testimony for that. I myself have participated several hydrogen events at the COP, and also in many other events, if not all events, there was a strong reference to hydrogen by the participants, governments, investors, and industry. But this was not always the case. In the year 2019, Prime Minister Abe, at the time of Japan, asked the IEA to prepare a report, the first report on hydrogen at global scale, which we call the future of hydrogen, to discuss where hydrogen was and where hydrogen could be in the next years to come. And at that time, there was already a strong momentum behind hydrogen, but not yet a lot of government backing for the investment and for other steps to be taken. Now, 2 years later, the situation is different. When we published our report, there were only 3 countries with a national hydrogen strategy. And today, according to our global hydrogen review, we have 17 countries with such a national strategy, and 20 others are preparing their national hydrogen strategies. This is excellent news. I would like to finish my words with addressing one of the many challenges I see for the development of hydrogen. This is creating demand for hydrogen to bring the cost down. I think there is a very important role for governments through auctions, through different mandates to create a demand for hydrogen to bring the cost down. And the second thing is, in that context, it is very important to have an international cooperation among the countries. I think this very meeting brings both of these aspects together, and as such, I would like to wish you a best of luck for the meeting. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Wilson, and I'm speaking to you today as the Executive Director of the Hydrogen Council. Congratulations to the entire Team USA on the recent passing of the infrastructure bill. This will enable your country to take its rightful place among the leaders in the infrastructure race to net zero. The Hydrogen Council is a CEO consortium of 130 global industrial leaders in hydrogen. Tom Linebarger, co-chair of the Hydrogen Council and CEO of Cummins, is in the Blue Zone today and actually with you at this event. And I know that Tom and Cummins are very passionate about the core of this initiative being announced today. So please connect with Tom if you're in the audience, and make sure that if you have any questions about this initiative or the council, I'm sure he'll be pleased to chat with you. In the last week, the Hydrogen Council has published 2 reports providing insight into the significant contribution that hydrogen will make in the journey to decarbonizing our energy systems. We do not maintain that hydrogen alone will deliver all that is needed for the journey for net zero, but at 22% of final energy use by 2050, this indeed is a very significant contribution. So we boldly say that there's no solution to climate change without hydrogen. In a companion study, we outlined the 6 pillars for effective policy approaches so that hydrogen could deliver on this promise. And one of those pillars is the incorporation of societal value and societal values. I was struck upon the recent launch of Hydrogen Earthshot by the US, just how prominently this element was present in the launch. Clearly, the US commitment to environmental justice is front and center. And indeed, we cannot build back better if we do not build for the benefit of those communities that are often left behind. Today, your challenge focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion invites the world to join with you in making a difference. At the Hydrogen Council, we fully support this initiative, and we plan to share with our members the opportunity to come alongside leading cities to support their efforts in solving the climate crisis, using hydrogen as part of the solution and fully incorporating the emphasis on diversity, equality, and inclusion. The hydrogen story is indeed everyone's story. There's no country, region, or population on the earth who cannot participate. Hydrogen is that unbounded and ubiquitous that the door is open for all. But making that possibility a reality takes initiatives like the Twin Cities Project. Taking action rather than just talking has been a recurring theme of COP26. And our experience on the Hydrogen Council is that all action is local action. Often is at the city and municipal level where communities come together and bring expression to values like diversity, equity, and inclusion to finally get things done. Already, projects like the Hydrogen Valley projects and the port projects for hydrogen have this character. So today we applaud your efforts and we're fully on board with you on this initiative. Let's get the action flowing in the right way. Thanks very much.
Let me just quickly start by inviting my panel straight away. Please do come and make yourselves comfortable up on the stage as I introduce you. So we're lucky to be joined today by Elena Bardram, Director of DG Klima at the European Commission. Welcome. By Dylan Juzelko Zageres, State Secretary of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy in the Netherlands. Welcome, Dylan. Darren Miller, CEO of the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. Welcome, Darren. And unavoidably detained for now, but hopefully to join us if possible, Mr. Khalid Abouleif, who I know really wanted to be here but is supporting his minister right now, who's Chief Climate Negotiator for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Also, through a virtual pre-recorded intervention, Mr. Naoshi Hirose, who is also Vice Minister of International Affairs for the Ministry of Energy, Technology and Industry for Japan, and we'll hear from him soon. So hopefully I've not done too much damage in the pronunciation of our panel. Apologies to anyone if I have done, apologies. But let me start very briefly by framing this discussion before hearing from our experts. So put simply, we need to build a global clean hydrogen economy to achieve our clean energy and emissions reductions goals. To do that, we need to cut the carbon content of hydrogen, cut the cost of clean hydrogen, and accelerate the pace of deployment in this decisive decade. Doing this requires complementary and coordinated efforts along the value chain, across our economies, and around our world. To do it right, we need actions like the US Hydrogen Earthshot to cut the cost of supply as fast as physically possible. As we heard from Deputy Secretary Turk, $1 for 1 kilogram in 1 decade. We also need actions like the H2 Twin Cities initiative, which we're launching today, connecting communities around the world to deploy clean hydrogen solutions. Because collectively we need to mobilize action from countries and companies all the way through to cities and communities and to individual consumers and citizens. So personally, on behalf of the Clean Energy Ministerial's global community, I'm really excited about the H2 Twin Cities initiative being launched today, and would like to thank very much the US government for taking this effort and for the fantastic team behind it, and for what I'm sure will be a very successful global coalition going forward. So with that by way of framing, let's launch into our discussion and listen about what's going on in different parts of the world. So if I can, let me just start by moving to the European Commission, Elena. So we know the European Commission, very active, clean hydrogen seems to be a big part of the European Green Deal. But please do tell our audience How do you see hydrogen fitting in?
Thanks very much, Dan. And I'm delighted to be here today at the launch of the H2 Cities initiative. And as Dan has said, the EU is a very firm believer in hydrogen as a future and international cooperation as an enabler. The European Green Deal pegs European economic and industrial future into net zero. The net zero commitment has been enshrined into EU legislation, and with the Fit for 55 we have put forward a legislative framework that leaves no space for complacency. It requires decisive action, it requires determination, and it requires inclusiveness, because all parts of society, all parts of the economy must be part of the transition. Already in 2020, the EU came forward with our hydrogen strategy, which is one of the central planks of the European Green Deal. In that strategy would be put forward a very ambitious goal of specific targets and very detailed vision. And cities and local action is a very clear part of that. We also have a very clear commitment to just social transition, and we feel that local and municipal action is an instrumental part of all of this. As we advance with the deployment of the European Green Deal, it becomes more and more clear that unless the citizens see in their everyday life the impacts of this transition, it's not going to happen. So providing reassurances about accessibility, affordability and attainability of these solutions is very important. So with the European multi-annual financial framework of some 1.7 trillion euros, we have earmarked about 35% of the overall budget to support climate-relevant activities, particularly infrastructure and macroeconomic investments, such as putting in place the necessary access for hydrogen solutions. The Twin Cities objectives are very well aligned with the vision of the European Green Deal. Knowledge sharing, exchanging of best practices, doing this internationally is all very similar in terms of what we want to achieve with the European Green Deal. It also brings the activities very close to the citizen. Transport solution, public transportation, these are visible indications of what is happening and how the governments at different levels can help the transition. So we support innovative alliances. We're very keen to hear more about the cities, Twin Cities and the H2 in the broader CEM context. And as you know, the EU already leads on two of the CEM initiatives, notably the Global Aspirational Goals and also the Global Ports Coalition. Twin Cities is a very interesting new idea and initiative, and we very much look forward to working on that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Director Bardrum. So moving from the European Union overall to one specific member state, the Netherlands, State Secretary, I've often heard the Netherlands talking about being the gateway for hydrogen for northwestern Europe. Perhaps you can enlighten our audience about your plans and aspirations in this area.
Thank you so much, Dan. And also, please don't feel bad about my name. And it's very difficult. And even in the Netherlands, people are still trying to learn it. So thank you for having me here. And I remember my first and last COP ever was in Katowice 3 years ago. And that we missed the US in that year. So I'm very happy that you're not only present, but also organizing such a huge and important event. So thank you so much. And we are, as the Netherlands, very proud to be involved as well. We recognize clean hydrogen as an essential link in our energy policy and as a huge economic opportunity for the Netherlands. Our policy, when it comes to hydrogen, is focused on cost reduction, scaling up, and providing certainty to investors. For example, on the infrastructure. We're about to invest in a hydrogen backbone, as we call it, reusing parts of our natural gas grid. And maybe you know that in the Netherlands we have a very extensive gas grid. So that's a huge opportunity for us to see how we can use the gas grid for hydrogen. And that means that we want to be a hydrogen hub. What I like about the H2 Twin Cities is the focus on local developments. Also in the Netherlands, we see that initiatives are carried by regions and cities. The north of the Netherlands was chosen by the European Commission as the first hydrogen valley, where the first fully integrated hydrogen supply chain in the world will be developed, including production, underground storage, transportation, and use of clean hydrogen for different end users, such as transport, built environment, and industries in the region. So we are delighted to share the knowledge and experiences of our regions and cities, and we are very delighted to learn from other cities around the world.
Perfect. Thank you both for that answer and for your understanding of my pronunciation. Darren, hopefully it's much easier in your case, but look, abundant renewable energy give Australia both the opportunity for hydrogen in its domestic mix, but also perhaps, more importantly, economically, as a provider to the world in terms of export opportunities. How do you see the opportunities for clean hydrogen for Australia, and how do you think maybe it links in to H2 Twin Cities?
Thanks, Dan, and you got the pronunciation spot on, so well done. Terrific to be back here on the US Pavilion, and it's a fantastic initiative. I think it's fairly well understood that hydrogen is a fantastic opportunity for Australia. It's one of the core pillars of our long-term emissions reduction strategy, which now has a net zero by 2050 goal, which we're hoping to achieve. We have 6 core priorities. Hydrogen is one of them, and ultra-low-cost solar is another, and that's important because the green opportunity, the green hydrogen opportunity, is one of abundant low-cost renewable energy, and Australia's natural resource from a renewable energy perspective is large landmass and very high insulation levels, and so we need to drive the cost of solar down in order to get the cost targets for hydrogen. Australia has its own cost target for hydrogen of $2 Australian, which translates in today's currency at $1.50 US. I think it's very important that we have these stretch goals, and while we're not there yet, I think we can gain a lot of confidence that the innovation and the scale that we're looking to achieve can drive us towards that cost target. But I think, and of relevance to this initiative in particular, it's not just about having the technology at the cost and knowing you can do it. It's actually about the ability to put that into the field, to do that at scale, to bring communities along for that journey. The infrastructure, the financing that goes around this is really, these are the key elements to making a green hydrogen and a clean hydrogen economy possible. That's not to dismiss the technical innovation, which my agency is heavily involved in. We've committed over $160 million to 33 hydrogen projects, all in the green space at this point in time. But it's actually about that next phase. It's about educating communities. People don't yet know, they're intrigued, but they don't yet know what this involves. There's in Australia very much a transition away from fossil fuel generation and production and export towards hydrogen, bringing those communities along for that journey, building skills, generating new jobs, it's what it's all about. And Australia is looking at a hubs model to scale hydrogen. We're looking at 7 hubs around the coastal areas of Australia. We've allocated about $500 million to seed those hubs, and that program of work is underway right now. That, I think, is where we can engage with the globe around city-to-city linkages and learning from each other.
Brilliant, thank you, Darren, and really interesting set of points there, including about the value and importance of ultra-low-cost solar, and also about the hubs model that you raised, very much in line with talk of hydrogen valleys in the European Union context and elsewhere. Now we're going to turn to a pre-recorded intervention now from the Vice Minister at METI in Japan.
Good afternoon. I'm Naoshi Hirose, Vice Minister for International Affairs of the METI Japan. First of all, please accept my hearty congratulations on the grand opening of H2 Twin Cities event. I would like to extend my utmost respect to Mr. David Turk, Ms. Melanie Nakagawa, and to everyone who exerted their efforts in organizing this very important event. In recent years, the momentum towards hydrogen-powered societies is increasing, and this year's record number of ministers who participated in the Hydrogen Energy Minister meeting is a reflection of such high momentum. Japan is determined to take the lead in the transition to a hydrogen-powered society. To achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, hydrogen is now positioned to be one of the essential energy sources in the energy mix, and the Japanese government has invested over $6 billion in hydrogen-related projects. Next month, a demonstration-sized liquefied hydrogen carrier vessel will leave the port of Kobe for Hastings in Australia in order to bring back hydrogen to Japan. And we are planning for a commercial-scale vessel to be launched in 2026. Also, hydrogen single-fuel power generation is planned to supply energy for the Expo 2025 Osaka Kansai in Japan. Furthermore, in the context of Green Corridor, which was announced at the recent Quad meeting in September, several ports in Japan will align with the Port of Los Angeles in using hydrogen in their operations. In the process of applying new technology in real society, it is important to carry out comprehensive demonstrations based on practical use cases through which any remaining problems can be detected early enough and solutions can be worked out. The H2 Twin Cities initiative can play a significant role for partnering cities to exchange and share their knowledge and experience to that end. This year, for the first time in the history of the Olympics, the Olympic torch was powered by green hydrogen produced in Namie town in Fukushima Prefecture. 10 years have passed after the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, and now the town of Namie has become the frontrunner in the hydrogen industry. Toyota, Toshiba, and other Japanese companies have all provided their best technologies, and a plan is underway to utilize green hydrogen produced in Namie town for various applications on a town-wide basis. We have received a report that Namie town has signed a hydrogen sister city agreement with the city of Lancaster, California, which aims for supplying all of the city's energy with hydrogen. I truly expect that the H2 Twin Cities initiative will play a leading role in promoting partnering of cities around the world towards making a hydrogen-powered society a reality. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vice Minister. And I'm really pleased to see that we've now been joined by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on the stage. Welcome, welcome. And actually, if I can turn to you now. So I hear a word again and again when I'm talking to colleagues about hydrogen in Saudi Arabia, which is NEOM, 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 which in this context almost feels like you're building a city ready-made to partake in the H2 Cities initiative. But perhaps you can enlighten our audience a little bit more about plans for clean hydrogen in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Well, thank you very much, and sorry for really joining late. We were kind of busy with His Royal Highness the Minister who arrived at our pavilion, and there are really a couple of issues that we'd like really to kind of sort out with him. Now, back to the hydrogen aspect. Well, NEOM, yes indeed. NEOM is going to be a key player when it comes to the green hydrogen. And this is something that we are really pushing for. So far, this is really going on. But it is not only NEOM that we have really got, because Saudi is equally very much interested to push for the agenda of blue hydrogen, which is obvious, I would say, maybe choice up until we get the green hydrogen up and running, and probably cost kind of equivalent to the blue hydrogen. Leveraging the hydrocarbon resource that we have really got, leveraging the capacities we have got for the sequestration, would like really to move forward as well with blue hydrogen. And indeed, we have just recently finished preparation for our strategy that cover both the blue as well as the green hydrogen when it comes to the production, as well as the domestic utilization that we would like really to see for hydrogen, as well as the export aspects. And we are working along with our colleagues and neighbors to kind of find the best utilization for those resources that we have really got. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for that contribution. Now, I'm a little bit conscious of time, and I'm going to try and keep as close to time as I can. There's a really important part of this H2 Cities initiative that we haven't had a chance to talk about very much, which is the social dimension, the need for contributing with and engaging with communities, ensuring that we're leaving no one behind, as the phrase goes. And I think we've already heard some examples there within the Ports Coalition that we've talked about, hydrogen valleys, the hubs. So if I can just, as we bring the microphone back towards me, maybe 30 seconds per speaker about how you see the additional value of this particular Twin Cities work really being great in terms of its bringing together technical and policy, but also with the social dimension, in 30 seconds if possible. So if I can start with the Commission. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I think just transition, social inclusion and leaving no one behind is really part and parcel of what the EU believes in. And initiatives such as the Twin Cities have enormous power in empowering the local actors. And this visible, concrete evidence about how the policymakers and regulators can come closer to the citizen is going to be important as we move on with the transformation. Thanks.
That doesn't work. That's not a good idea. Okay, this is better. I think that the human capital agenda is a big priority when it comes to the energy transition in general. In a country such as the Netherlands, we see that it's becoming very difficult for us to find the right people to do the job. And that's not only when it comes to energy transition, but that's going to be key the coming years. And I think that if we don't fix that problem, we're going to have issues with the transition in general. And I think that it's very important to keep thinking about the jobs at industry, while hydrogen can help also transform the industry and to have their own place within the energy transition, so we can keep the green industry in our countries together in Europe and all over the world, to keep the jobs there where they're supposed to be, but also the reduction of the emissions. And I think that's also very important to make sure that the new generation wants to be part of this energy transition. And if I may add one point about that, that's just one example. If you look at the universities, where the young people are busy with designing cars, ships, airplanes, all focused on hydrogen, that's very exciting what's happening over there as well. So I think we need to find a balance. While people working in the so-called old or grey industry will still have their place when the transformation and the transition will evolve.
Dan, yeah. So just my agency, for example, has two sort of statutory mandates. One is investing, so it's money and innovation, and the other is collaboration and knowledge sharing. And so I think that part of it is equally important, and what's necessary is that not only can we collaborate internationally and learn internationally, but then share that knowledge internally to our communities, because I think there's a lot of interest in hydrogen, probably a lot of confusion as well. We need to make sure we set off on the right foot with communities, that we don't mess things up before we even got to some kind of scale. We need safety, we need social engagement, training, social justice needs to be baked into that. Thanks.
Well, it's always hard when you are the last to find really what you would like to say, but I would say the word we use is inclusiveness, and inclusiveness with all dimensions, inclusiveness when it comes to taking care of the full aspects required for us really to produce the hydrogen and other form of energy, inclusiveness in making it available to all that need it. So it wouldn't be really made available for those kind of afford, and those cannot really afford would kind of be without it. So I would say really the key word for us is that inclusiveness of all form of energy, all form of requirements, all form of those end users that would be benefiting from the energy that we are really talking about. Yes.
Perfect, thank you. And inclusiveness is a very good word to linger on. So let's just wrap up there. Give an applause to our panel as they retake their seats. For me, very briefly, the power of H2's twin cities lies in three basic truths. So the first is that our climate goals can only be realized if we all achieve net zero emissions together, but obviously with each choosing their own path. The first truth is therefore a common truth, that when it comes to tackling climate change, we all succeed or we all fail. We must work together. The second truth is that clean energy transitions will be faster, cheaper, more effective if we all work together and learn from each other. That second truth is candidly actually simple self-interest. It's in the interest of each to work together. And the third is that it's the one about leaving no one behind. And the fact that that's not just a catchphrase, it's a mantra, it's a guiding philosophy, an oath to each other. Our transitions, our actions to tackle climate change must be just and equitable to all. We know this when we say it, but we must live it and act on it if we also want to see it. That final truth, therefore, is about our essential humanity. It is simply the right thing to do. Now, if that's enough to persuade you, please go and learn more. Go on to the Department of Energy's website, energy.gov, or the Clean Energy Ministerial website, cleanenergyministerial.org. Look, it's been a real pleasure for me to host this panel. It's now a pleasure for me to hand over to Kelly Speaks-Baxman to wrap up today's session. Thank you.
Well, this is quite an honor to be able to close out such an amazing lineup of speakers, but especially the launch of H2 Twin Cities. This is just such an exciting time. I really appreciated hearing from the panelists about the visibility for communities. I thought that was a really important point. Thinking about workforce and infrastructure, talking about financing and building hubs is really incredibly important. And inclusiveness, and I'm going to say it, it's just been such an incredible set of information that we can all go forward. And thank you so much for moderating this panel. We know that our success can only be done together and not separately. It's going to take all of us to collaborate and leverage our strengths together. Each of us bring something to the table, and it was just such a pleasure to see this happening right on the ground here. So let's continue to keep pushing the envelope of what's possible, so that we can work towards this common goal of a cleaner and a more equitable energy future. I am so excited to see this clean energy H2 Twin Cities initiative launched today, because partnerships like this are really what's going to build this community of a clean hydrogen, and our practices will be shared and built upon. We're going to implement this at the international, the national, and the subnational levels, and we're going to have inclusive conversations to create jobs in fossil communities and to clean the air for environmental justice communities. I'm just so incredibly excited about this. You all clearly understand the gravity of this moment. It's evidenced by your presence here this week and in the work that's being done. So I just really appreciate your time and effort and attention, and would really appreciate one further ask is to really invite everybody to spread the word about the H2 Twin Cities. We're very excited to launch this and looking forward to its success. So thank you so much.